How to become a gentleman villain. Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, Lucy can't sleep. As she stared into the distance, the spirit shouted, Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself. It was likely partially due to the construction work that had lasted all day long, but the true cause. While Lucy Merrill looked into the distance, she trembled in frustration and anger as she saw Janica Failover humming to her favorite song. Suddenly, Janica looked at Lucy Merrill and said, Ah, Lucy, Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself. Was Janica who had greeted her warmly. Suddenly, she was shocked and confused as she looked at Lucy Merrill. Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, but the two had already engaged in a battle of wits before. Although Janica was bad at expressing things that were unpleasant, she couldn't lose. As Janica Failover smiled, radiating joy, she said, So, I'll be living here. Lucy Merrill, frustrated, clicked her tongue. Suddenly, Ed Roth-Taylor said, Who? As she nibbled on a piece of beef jerky, and he said to himself, I borrowed a bunch of elemental magic books. He was at the faculty building in the Eastern Square, and he said to himself, This is because I thought I should learn some new magic. A system notification appeared, mid-rank magic, particle explosion. And he said to himself, although particle explosion has good practical use, its firepower is that of low-level magic at best. As Jix had said during their fight, I think just crushing you with the difference in our power would be the best way to deal with someone like you, Ed. Ed Roth-Taylor said, Firepower, As he saw a beautiful girl by the fountain playing her banjo, he said to himself, the holy firekeeper, the romantic and the prophet, Adele Saris. Although she had appeared regularly since the first act as Taylor's comrade, she didn't appear often in the game. She didn't have many points of contact with Ed either. Adele Saris said, You're busy today as well, Ed. Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, So why is it that she's speaking to me? Ed Roth-Taylor looked back and said, Me? Adele Saris said, I've heard much from Taylor and Isla. They seem to have complex emotions about you. Ed Roth-Taylor said, Yeah, but that's none of my business. And he said to himself, although I am a bit curious about Taylor, from what I heard from Jix, he's been growing stronger and doing well. At this rate, he'll be able to easily pass through the joint combat training without an issue. Adele Saris said, Do you want to hear a song? I'm still a bard who travels the continent, although I'm staying in Sylvania for now. Ed Roth-Taylor said, It's fine, these are quite heavy. Adele Saris said, Oh my, what a shame. As Ed Roth-Taylor walked away, Adele Saris called out, Ed, if you one day rise to the patriarch's throne, you will have to kill the person you respect most with your own hands. If you hesitate in that moment, however, know that it will be you who dies. Ed Roth-Taylor, confused, said to himself, A prophecy? The reason that Adele could always calmly play the lute in any situation was because of her prophetic ability to see the future. But because her prophecies didn't always come true, he didn't have to worry too much about them. However, the reason he felt unsettled was because he knew of a more certain future, based on the scenario in the third act. Adele would die. In a different scene, Ed Roth-Taylor, unimpressed, said no, and he said to himself, I wanted to make 2 thunderstruck 1,000-year-old wooden sticks in order to craft 2 canes, one for Janica and one for me. But when I asked her to make lightning for me, Lucy Merrill, frustrated, said, I'm only doing one. Ed Roth-Taylor said, Don't you just have to use the magic once anyway? Lucy Merrill remained silent. Ed Roth-Taylor said, Arg. Then I'll just make one and give it to Janica. As he sighed, Lucy Merrill, frustrated, trembled and said, Eek. Ed Roth-Taylor said, Since its performance is good, I should give it to the person who will use it best. Lucy Merrill bit her lip in frustration and said, Okay, I'll do both of them. Ed Roth-Taylor said, Oh. Lucy Merrill grabbed Ed Roth-Taylor's arm and said, But I have a condition. It's nothing much. Ed Roth-Taylor, confused, said, A condition. Lucy Merrill said, Go somewhere with me. And she dragged Ed Roth-Taylor with her. Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, The Archmage Glock, regardless of the field, whether it was elemental studies, monster ecology, herbology, mana management, sensitivity theory, spirit studies, etc., he was acknowledged for his research results. And he possessed 2 highest-ranked spirits, highest-ranked fire spirit, Teorphus, highest-ranked water spirit, Fried. At the same time, after he retired, he worked to develop younger generations, investing all of his life savings into the education sector and academy research funds. They say he barely used money on himself. When it comes to Sylvania Academy, it was Archmage Glock who advanced it to be the best educational facility in the world. Glock spent all of his funds on the academy and secluded himself in the Great Ramellan Mountains in the continent's northwestern region. A student in the crowd said, Isn't that the person who's dating Janica? Ed Rothtaler said to himself, and there, he met an abandoned child at a monastery. A student said, "That's Lucy." Ed Rothtaler said to himself, that was Lucy. If there was something unexpected, it was that Lucy's magic talent was greater than Glock had imagined. It was a talent that was a precious gem of humanity. The twilight of the Archmage who had left his mark in history was spent polishing this gem. He was a great man. If a book were to be written about his life, it could be filled with epic tales and grand adventures. But his later years were more sorrowful. His wife, whom he had met when he was young, lost her life while subjugating Torfus, and all of his colleagues had passed away before him. Eventually, the only people who remained around him were those who revered him and those who wanted to use his fame. That is probably why he built a hut in the mountains to seclude himself. But what was a relief was that there was someone who could continue his will. A rainy day and a shabby hut, those alone allowed Glock to pass away happily. Lucy Merrill said, "And that is how the journey of Archmage Glock ended, and how my journey began. Although, it is over now." Ed Rothtaler said, "Over." Lucy Merrill said, "Do you know where that old man's hometown is?" Ed Rothtaler said, "From what I learned in history class, it's the lawless area of Cohelton, right?" Lucy Merrill said, "No, the history books are wrong. That is just where he spent his youth." Ed Rothtaler, shocked and confused, said, "What?" Lucy Merrill said, "His real hometown is here, Arkan Island." I don't know what was so entertaining, but whenever he talked about living on Arkan Island, he was so earnest. And even until the moment he died, he worried about this school. He was such a fool, that old man. His heart's hometown was Arkan Island. There was no helping it. Ed Rothtaler said to himself, "Lucy told me about the journey that she had no choice but to embark on. At the time, the young Lucy only had the shabby hut and the cold corpse of the old man left. She covered his corpse with a blanket, tied it up with leather ropes, and then froze him with ice magic. Although most mages would get exhausted maintaining this ice magic for even just 1 hour, Lucy was already capable of doing so at this stage. This is a story that sends chills down your spine. Glock's hut was in the Ramelin Mountains, in the northwest of the continent. So, she headed south from there. She passed the Urical Forest, Great Lake Ica, the land of Alchemy Cree, the Malin Plains, the holy city Carpia, and the Denkin Wetlands to finally reach the Klol Empire's borders. After that, the Teldanilvi County. Following the river downstream from there, it took her past the merchant city Oldek, the Awulin County, the Islan Barony, the Salvi County, the Rothtaler Duchy, the Feder Marquisate, and the Tis County. Then, she passed the Janet Mountains, the Dres River, and Zahul Margrave's territory. Heading southwest, she passed through Crample Forest. If you opened a world map, you would have to draw a straight line with a quill for quite some time before reaching Mexis Bridge, which connects to Arkan Island. That journey, one where she continuously used magic to maintain her master's corpse and even to move her own body. Lucy Merrill pointed at a distance and said, "It took 3 months. I got a bit lost, and it took me a week just to find that." A few moments later, Ed Rothtaler said this. Lucy Merrill said, "According to that old man's records, this is the place where the Archmage and the Great Sage taught each other and trained. This is where my journey ended." A system notification appeared. Introduction to a Spectral Magic Author. Glock Eldervane Ed Rothtaler said this, and he said to himself, Glock's Travelogue of Southern Views, which included his thoughts on magic within the southern continent, sells for 7,000 golden coins. If you think that is one of history's greatest books, his posthumous book, which includes his analysis of a spectral magic, must have a worth I cannot even calculate. Lucy Merrill sat on the cliff looking at the sunset and said, "You can take it. It's all knowledge I already know, so I do not need it. I remember all the words Grandpa left behind. I have not even lived half the life given to me, and I might begin a new journey. Or maybe I will continue living a half-hearted life like this. Still, I plan on keeping the promise I made to Grandpa. If danger comes to Sylvania, I will definitely protect it at least once." It is not a very happy story, and listening to it is not enjoyable either. And coming to a place like this is a hassle, but I just wanted to show you this, Ed Rothtaler said to himself. Although the first journey of her life had somewhat concluded after arriving on Arkan Island and burying her master, Lucy has not yet been able to escape her master's shadow. That is why she endlessly waits for that danger to approach Sylvania, sometimes with excitement and sometimes with fear. No wonder she is lazy, but once the promised trial has passed, she will finally be able to leave on a new journey in order to lead her own life. Because I know that time is not too far off, I have decided to be lazy with Lucy today. The sound of the waves and the refreshing wind of late spring made it neither cold nor hot, even after sitting for a long time. That was a fortunate thing, as Ed Roth Taylor holds the head of Lucy Merrill while they watch the sunset. Thank you so much for watching. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to help me grow my channel. Your support means the world to me. Don't forget to leave a comment below. I love hearing from you. Let's keep the conversation going and get those analytics buzzing. Until next time, take care.